Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you back, or for the first time, to We'll Bring the Popcorn, your favorite film and TV podcast. So moving us on to our second film review of this show, we have The Bad Guys 2. So this was kind of a surprise hit, the first one when it came out. It was a little bit different. It's skewing a little bit older, but also younger at the same time, because you have, which I never expected him to be doing an animated kind of kids cartoon, Sam Rockwell being Mr. Wolf in there. But, you know, from the first film, they were the bad guys. They were robbing banks and doing all this. And by the end, they had decided that they were going to go good because it felt good and everything else. So this one kicks off a little bit later that they are still sticking to that. They're trying to be the good guys, but they're struggling. Nobody wants to hire them because they know their past. Like Mr. Wolf goes to get a job at the bank. Like, you robbed us 3 times.
That was this bank?
Yeah, that was this bank? But they're struggling to be the good guys because no one wants to give them their fair chance, and then they get set up from a new group of bandits, and you have that's led by Kitty Cat, that is voiced by Danielle Brooks, she's in Peacemaker, and she did Orange is the New Black. She's a great actress, and it was kind of fun to have her in this and stuff too. And you got Awkwafina came back as Tarantula. You have Anthony Ramos as Mr. Piranha. You've got a pretty solid voice cast. You've got Natasha Lyonne was added in here as well. But it was fun. It was a fun little movie. Like it doesn't have, it's kind of really interesting to have kind of 2 comedies back to back in different styles, because I could say I had a lot more comedic fun with The Naked Gun than this one, but it still had some enjoyment jokes. Like some stuff they're beating you over the head with gags that they did from the first one. But overall, it was a fun little story of trying to see if they're going to go back to being bad. Are they truly still good? Are they doing the right thing? How do people react to them? But it's also a bit over the top and a bit crazy, and not everything works in it, but I still had a good time, and my kids had a good time with it.
Yeah, and I think it's working for the target audience that it had. I struggled a little bit with this movie, only because, for whatever reason, the story didn't captivate me. Like, it didn't.
See that.
It had a hard time keeping my attention during it. Like, it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's honestly one that if you tried to ask me to recall the plot of this movie in 3 months, I might struggle to do so. Mm-hmm. Like, because there's not a ton of memorable stuff in here. There's a few, like, jokey type things that kind of hit for a lot of it, but I think you got a lot of the movie from the trailer in this case.
Yeah,
like, there wasn't a ton of things that the trailer left out that you really got in the movie from this, and that is a little bit disappointing for me. But overall, it's still a solid movie. Like, I like the story that they were telling of can they truly be good guys if nobody's giving them a chance, and would it be easy to fall back on old habits? And they're working really hard and really over the top way to convince people that they're actually good. And that's kind of the central plot of the whole movie. And, you know, it was fine for what it was. Like, it does a solid enough job of telling a decent story. And, you know, at the end, that's all I can really ask for from a sequel to something that's already been done and done so well. But, yeah, I really felt like this was more of a 1B than a brand new, fresh sequel story necessarily for me. But not a bad movie by any means. It's just one that I was just like, okay, they kind of did it, and I watched it, and I don't know if I'd go back to it or not. Like, and that's kind of where I feel about it, which, you know, I mean, good for them. It's going to do well, but we'll see how audiences react to it for sure.
Even though I liked it, I agree with you. The story was a little bit weaker because of what you're doing, and you're trying to, I think a lot of it is because it's trying to make so many references to the past, as it goes back to their flashback to their first job, and bring back the villain from the first movie for some parts and stuff. And then it doesn't give it tries to paint a picture that they're struggling and stuff, but you don't spend that long with like exactly what they're all trying to do. Like you're getting some progress, but they do kind of feel the same as they did when we left the last one. And it does get ridiculous with the story towards the end, especially as it gets into the heart of what the actual plot that Kitty Cat and her gang are going after. It gets into the really ludicrous. I mean, we're talking about animals who can drive and pull off jobs and stuff too, but it gets even more ludicrous than that when it gets to dealing with space, as we've seen that in the trailers and everything. So it kind of lost me a little bit at the end there because it did go so like just big and over the top, and it didn't fully nail that. And like I said, a lot of the comedy felt like it was rehashes of stuff they did in the first movie that I've watched several times with my kids now, which, they've enjoyed both. And again, you hear me talk about all the time when it comes to these type of films. That's what really matters. You can have us old crotchety guys talking about a kid's animated film and not liking it and stuff like that, but it's made for the kids, because I think we've been spoiled a little bit by the Pixars and others that have given us
even DreamWorks
movies and DreamWorks that you can enjoy as adults and kids, and not everything has to be that way. And I think this tries to be like in between of giving stuff and innuendo jokes and other stuff like that adults can enjoy, but also keeping it to kids. There was one really strange, like I've talked about it before, I'm not a prude when it comes to language and stuff, but it did have one moment where there was one slight bit of cursing and it just caught us off guard. Like, okay, it got a reaction out of us, but this is a PG movie made for kids. Did we really? Because they didn't really do any other language like that in the rest of the film. So that was just like, did you really need to do a shock value type of bit there? Is that fully necessary to do in it? Like, it's okay, but if you're looking at taking young kids, know that there is one curse word line in there that can be a little shocking, but it didn't ruin the movie at all. It was just that odd that the rest of the movie there wasn't something like that. It was just a weird choice to do that shock value.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely not the target demographic for this movie by any stretch of the imagination, but even with Universal like really put this together. It's one of their more popular entities based on how well the last film did, but it's kind of lower on the ranking for me as far as like just overall quality of the movie. And it's just, I don't know why it just didn't resonate with me very much at all. Like, I hate to say it, I almost found myself falling asleep at one point. Like, it kind of didn't really grab my attention, and that's not a knock on anybody that put work into this film or anything. It's just, I know I wasn't the target demo for this, and I really struggled to connect with any of the characters really in any of the story, because I may have seen the bad guys once or twice maybe, and then I hadn't revisited it since, and it's one that I can appreciate a little bit the callbacks to the previous one. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that they did this and that. And that helped kind of recalibrate me watching it, but I'm not going to have that much of it's not going to sit with me like some of the other films we've been able to see. And that's a little disappointing there, but like I said, I'm not the target demographic for this movie, so I'm glad that your kids had a good time watching it. That's who should be enjoying these movies. Not to say that we can't, because we love our animated films as well, but like it's one that it's going to be kind of forgettable for me, and I don't know how much more I can like emphasize that, because like I said, it's not the plot's not bad. It's fine. It just didn't stick with me for whatever reason.
I can see and I can agree with that. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the Bad Guys series. I enjoyed the first one enough. I enjoyed this one enough, but it's not something to me looking at like the Shreks or something like that's coming out. Like, it doesn't have the memorable sticking power. I couldn't tell you lines that are really going to stick from that. And yeah, because it is kind of that weird that it's trying to be a little more grown up, but it's still got fart jokes and it's got ridiculous jokes like that and over the topness to it and stuff. Like, it's one of those that it's got a lot of popularity, but it doesn't feel like it's a franchise, like a new franchise. I was kind of surprised when I saw they were doing a sequel, because I thought that one was going to be like, all right, this is a one-off, that it's okay. But I didn't think it was going to spawn and become a new franchise for them. So it was a little surprising to see them come back to it. Yeah. And like I said, it was surprising to see Sam Rockwell doing an animated kids movie like that as well, because he's such a kind of distinguished actor. He's done silly stuff as well, but he's a guy who's renowned for his physical acting and everything else. And he works well as the wolf. Like, all the voice actors work well for the characters. The animation looks great. It's a really beautiful animation style that they've done and stuff with. But I do agree with Bad Guys and Bad Guys 2. The story and kind of what happens in it is a little forgettable, especially when this one has such a because I'm such a big space guy and stuff as well, like that was a ludicrous, ridiculous, over the top kind of finale to it, which can be a lot of fun for the kids. And but adults can be looking at like, okay, that's just like a really, really ridiculous type of ending. And then it's clearly setting up for more. Like if you stick around to the very end and everything, it's clearly setting up that they're potentially 2 to 3. There was a credit scene in there as well. So the very end of the movie plus the credit scene means we could have multiple different bad guys stuff happening but the credit scene was weird, which I don't want to spoil, but it sets up that there's even a stranger, deeper, more out there type of story that might be connected to it. Like it's hard to talk about without spoiling, and I don't want to spoil it, but it was kind of strange that they kind of set up something that's completely out of left field from what this story kind of is. So yeah, it was enjoyable, but it's to me not one of the new great big franchises like we had with Shrek-Ron, and we've had with even with Puss in Boots getting the spinoffs and all these other new animated series and shows that we've got. I don't think it has the strength as the others, but it's doing enough to warrant more films. But it is one of those where like I chuckled, but I can't remember a moment I really laughed.
Sure.
I just chuckled quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm using it. I'm using it as a comparison for like the aesthetic and the type of characters from one franchise to the other. I feel completely different about the follow up to Zootopia than I do the bad guys. Like I'm very much looking forward to Zootopia 2. I love the first one. Like the first one's fantastic. Like if I'm comparing the two, I'm leaning more in the Zootopia camp than I am the bad guys camp, which, you know, could be my own personal preferences or whatever, but I'm more leaning into looking forward to what they have to offer for that, which we'll get to review later this year, than this one that they went back to the well. I was surprised they went back to the well too. And I think I'm even more surprised when they try to set up even more stuff. Like they're really making this like a bigger franchise. Like they have more plans for this to do well. We'll see how financially well it does, because I don't think it's going to be number one this week. I think Fantastic Four is sticking around for another week on top at least, but we'll see what it does after that, because there's a little bit of a box office lull, not necessarily a quality of film lull in the coming weeks. There's a film coming up next week that we're going to do or two of them that I think are going to be really interesting to see where they land financially too, just kind of in this coming out of the summer blockbuster season into like an early fall type thing, where we'll see how some of these movies do, but I don't know what kind of staying power this one's going to have, especially when you got other family friendly type movies coming down the pipeline soon.
Yeah, this might have been one to do more in the fall or winter, and because I mean you're coming out right after Superman and Fantastic Four and Jurassic World, which again Jurassic World is meant for the teens to older, but this one has the Bad Guys and Bad Guys 2 both have had kind of a weird feeling of what exactly age range is it meant for, because I mean it's got the fart and silly gags, but it's got some stuff that might skew more to the teenagers, but it doesn't feel like it goes quite as like I don't see that many teenagers liking the Bad Guys stuff as much. It's still more for the younger, but it's got a more like grown-up tone to, because I mean you're dealing with, hey, we were bad guys, we got arrested, we're trying to be good now, we're trying to get jobs. I mean that's not exactly something that's going to appeal to your 6-year-old at times, but it's like it's kind of that weird feeling of exactly what age range that it's kind of meant for, because the adults can enjoy having like someone like Sam Rockwell doing a voice in there, and you've got, you know, they're dealing with almost Ocean's 11 type of missions in this one, where you got the sleight of hand and things changing and all that, which is going to skew a little bit older as well. So it did have kind of an odd tone to it. It was enjoyable, but I feel like even though we talked about the love letter with the Naked Gun and how well it did with kind of redoing bits there, this one felt like it kind of like with Happy Gilmore 2 for me, that it was kind of going back to the well, like, hey, we did this on the first one, let's do a bunch more fart jokes. Let's do this because we did it in the first one. Let's do this because we did it in the first one. Like it was just kind of referencing itself a lot, to where it didn't establish kind of a new identity until the very end, where we're setting these characters up for something completely different than they've done in the first two.
Yeah. And we'll see what they do when they move a little further along into the next stories and where they go with it. But man, I don't know, man. I really struggled to connect with this one. It's a film honestly, I don't know if I'll go back and watch it again. And that affects how I view, it affects my ratings. It affects how I feel about a film. Like, if I want to go back and see it again, it's going to always score higher for me. But for this one, man, it was just, I think it struggled so much with its own identity at times that, like, I don't know if I'm overthinking it or what, but man, it was just my experience with that. It just didn't sit well with me at all. And I'm genuinely surprised that it's going to more movies potentially. But like I said, I'm not the target demographic for this. So if people got enjoyment out of it, I'm more power to you. I hope you loved it, and I hope you went and had a great time at the theaters if you see it. If you have kids, take them. They'll probably enjoy it. It just wasn't a film for me.
Yeah, so The Bad Guys 2 was a decent enough sequel. It does kind of have a tone and identity issue, exactly what kind of age range and people it's for. My kids loved it and enjoyed it. That always, I give a little extra boost when I'm reviewing something that's meant for kids and families, because as we mentioned, we're not exactly the main demographic for this, even though there are some jokes and things that are done for the older crowd. It doesn't work as well as like Pixar has mixed that kind of stuff in. I'm going to give it a 7. That does include a little boost from, my kids' enjoyment of it. It's not a bad movie. It's well animated. It's well voice acted. It had great sound and stuff to it. The story is a little forgettable. It's fun, but there wasn't a lot of, like, even through the whole theater, there wasn't a whole lot of heavy laughing or anything that really stuck out as being fully memorable. Like, there's some good animated sequences towards the end, but it gets really ludicrous and kind of over the top. And yeah, it ends with setting up this series into almost a pretty much new direction and stuff. So it feels like we're going to get more, but it was just okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean into giving it a 6. Like I said, it's not a bad movie by any means. It's just I struggled to connect with the characters and the story that they were telling. The story was fine. It's a pretty cohesive plot all the way through, which gives it a little bit of a boost for me. But the humor didn't hit for me in this one. It felt like it just felt like I missed the boat on this. It could have been the mood I was in. I saw this at the end of a stressful week, which sometimes goes into playing. We've talked about it, like how our moods could, affect our viewing of this. And I had dealt with a pretty stressful week myself, but I just didn't find myself coming off truth be told, for me, I saw Naked Gun on Thursday. I saw Bad Guys 2 on Friday. So I saw them on back-to-back days, and riding the high that I was feeling coming out of the Naked Gun, going into seeing this, I really struggled to connect with this one. And I don't know if it was trying to, in my brain, compare the two, which is not a fair comparison at all to make, but this is just a group of characters in a story that just didn't connect with me in a lot of ways, and I genuinely don't know if I'll go back and watch it a second time. I may give it a second chance just to see if I feel a little bit different, because I'm willing to do that, see if under different circumstances, maybe I'll like the film a little bit more, but this franchise just doesn't feel like it's connected with me, and I don't have a strong emotional connection to it, so I'm going to give it a solid 6. It's a solid film for what it is. It's just not one I'd go back to the well to again.
Like I said, it's one my kids have enjoyed, both of them. They were really excited to see it, and they enjoyed it. But this isn't one, like when you think of a franchise for an animated film, when I talked about K-pop earlier, that my daughters want all the merchandise and stuff, I don't know if I've ever seen merchandise or stuffed animals or something for the Bad Guys.
Sure.
Or the Bad Guys 2. I don't see a lot of kids flocking to get these characters to have at home, to have stuff of them at home. It is kind of an odd franchise to me. It wasn't a bad one-off movie, but I didn't know if it really needed to continue on into this. And now you've got potentially a third or fourth film, a spin-off film, and maybe a third film coming out that I never saw it as a franchise. It looked like it was just going to be one of those one-off films, and then they move on from it. But it's done well enough that they've gone back to it. But yeah, I agree with you with the most part. It is one that I've, as a dad and as an adult, have had it's okay, and I can be entertained by it. But It's not something if you gave me a choice of things to watch, it wouldn't be high on my list to kind of revisit. And for my kids, it's on their list to watch, but I don't think it's something that they would choose other stuff to watch more than that, because they've gone back and they've watched so rewatched so many things. I said K-pop is played so many times in our house, and all the Disney and Pixar stuff, and even Shreks and all that. But this one we've watched a couple times, but the first one, but it has not had as much play as any other like animated film that has come out in the last 10 years or more. And I don't see Bad Guys 2 being a huge replayed one in our household either. Not because of my dislike. I enjoyed it enough. Is I don't think it's gripping the audience as much. That's why it kind of did feel like an odd sequel that was their demand to revisit the Bad Guys.
Right. And, that's a decision for the studio to make. Will we get a third one? Time will tell. Come to our, like we said before, come to our Discord. Tell us if you've seen the movie and you think we're completely missing the mark on this. Please let us know. Like, we'd love to have that conversation with you. Obviously, come to our YouTube page once again. Like and subscribe, please. Like, go and let us know what you think about this film if you've gone and seen it, and maybe try to sway your mind if you think we're being a little too critical of this. To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.